Thank you very much, sir. So welcome all to this online awareness session on NADCAP accreditation. So we are from this company, Nucleus Consultant. We are into consulting auditing services. And this is our portfolio for aviation, space and defense industry. There are a lot of certification exist for AS, aerospace standards. We are into all and general standards also we do. So today's session is all about what is this NADCAP accreditation. Who grants this NADCAP accreditation? We have an organization called as PRI, Performance Review Institute. We will be discussing about what is this and what is this NADCAP and what are the different commodities right now NADCAP is offering the accreditation. Then what are the steps involved in NADCAP? This is what we are going to discuss today. Of course, end of the session, we have Q&A. If you have any questions in between, you can make a note or you can put it in the chat box. Maybe end of the session, we will try to address your questions. Okay, so let's start with some basics about accreditation. What is accreditation? I think most of your organizations are certified for some management system like ISO 9001 or AS 9100. So this is not a certification. NADCAP is all about an accreditation. So what is this accreditation? Accreditation is purely an independent conformity assessment process. There are different conformity assessment standard exist. You might have well aware about management system certification and also accreditation. These are the different type of management system certification and different type of accreditation exist. Most of your organization, if you are doing business with the aviation, space, defense industry, your customer might have requested you to go for 9100. Similar way, every management system, every sector having their own management system. Automotive industry mandates IATF 16949. Like there are different type of management system. These are all a certifiable standard where you can get a certificate. And similar way, we have another conformity assessment scheme. Those we call it as accreditation. Let's take your AS 9100 certificate. Who certifies your company? There will be a certification body. And who accredits them? There are accreditation body. And what basis the certification body and accreditation body operates? There is a separate standard ISO 17021 and they are accrediting the certification bodies against this particular standard. Even certification of persons, there is an accreditation standard. We all well aware about familiar with this ISO 17025. This is called as a laboratory testing and calibration laboratory accreditation. In India, there are different type of accreditation bodies who accredits the laboratory. NABL is one among them. Similarly, there are a lot of accreditation process exist. And this training, what we discussed, NADCAP, it's an accreditation process. It's not a certification process. And who going to grant this NADCAP accreditation? And what basis they are going to grant NADCAP accreditation? That's what we are going to discuss today. We have an organization called as PRI, Performance Review Institute, PRI. So this PRI is a non-profit organization and this is part of SAE. I'm sure you are well aware about this organization called as SAE. Let's try to hear from the participant. Maybe you can type in the chat box. Do you follow any SAE standards? Have you came across any SAE standards? Do you practice any SAE standards in your organization, in your processes? I'm pretty sure most of you well familiar with this organization called as SAE, who publishes standards for mobility industry. Yes, you have AMS standard, you have ARP, aerospace recommended practices, and you have a lot of AMS spec, right? There are a lot of AS standard industry practices. And ARP is there, AIR is there. There are plenty of standards made by SAE. So this PRI is part of SAE. The purpose of this particular PRI is they wanted to provide a global unbiased certification services with respect to manufacturing processes and also some products. That's the intention of this whole PRI. And this organization was formed in 1990s to manage the NADCAP program. And later it is evolved as a global industry recognized certification organization. So they grants NADCAP accredited certificate. And this PRI have offices at various places. The headquarters is located in USA. They have offices in UK and they have office in China. See, the concept of PRI, if you look at SAE, there are different type of standard bodies exist. Typically, SAE covers the entire life cycle. We could say the people who defines the problem within the aviation space defense industry. We have a separate organization, SAE ITC. They keep on developing standards. Most of you well aware about there is an organization who creates different type of standard. That's ISO. Similar way, there are a lot of standard making body exist. So SAE is one among such standard body, but it is not an international organization. It is an industry standard, we could say. So what SAE does? So SAE creates solution to the problem what industry is facing. Assume there is a issue with respect to quality, safety, reliability of a critical processes. So there is a issue we have. So how to address this issue? SAE comes with a solution. They have a standard. For example, during heat treatment process, we have a issue with temperature uniformity, how system is accurate. There is a issue. And SAE come up with a standard AMS 2750. And what PRI does here? It confirms that whatever the solution is established by the industry is being practiced. So there are three different world all sit in same forum and they wanted to address the issues what industry is facing. So this is what PRI is intent to do. So this PRI is all about industry managed program. When you say industry managed program, different type of industries are part of this. And PRI offering lot of program. One of the program is NADCAP. We are well aware, or you might have heard about this word NADCAP. In addition to NADCAP, PRI offers various programs. So what are those other various programs? PRI also offers MedAccred, that's for medical device industry critical process approval. Similarly, PRI also offers TPG, that is for transportation power generation industry accreditation. And recently, PRI launches a CAP program, that is counterfeit avoidance accreditation program. You all well aware about that. The counterfeit is one of the biggest risk in the aviation space defense industry, particularly in electronics sector. So PRI also offers an accreditation on PRI CAP. These are the various program right now PRI is operating. NADCAP is one among them. In addition to this, PRI also offers other services such as certification services, QPL, that is also managed by PRI, qualified product listing. There are 10 different qualified product groups. Under that, they are also listing the products. And PRI also conducts trainings and they are started qualifying the individuals. So these are the various programs operated by PRI. This NADCAP program is purely administered by PRI. So why NADCAP? Everybody is already certified for some standard, either ISO 9001 or AS 9100. Even customer comes and audit you, they approve your facility. When sometime customer approves your processes too, irrespective of all these things, why we need NADCAP? For any certification, there are three reasons we could say why industry is going for all this certification. I would apply the same logic here. Why NADCAP? Is it a regulatory requirement? Some of the regulation mandates you must have NADCAP. Or is it your customer contractual requirement? They ask you to go for NADCAP. Or is it your organizational voluntary decision you want to compete so that you are going to go for NADCAP? So the reason for going NADCAP, there are different levels and people are interpreting in a different way. So let's try to discuss about this. What is this NADCAP and why a company is going for NADCAP? See, this is the aero industry supply chain, I could say. There are different type of players involved in aviation space and defense ecosystem. Well, let's start with the, what you can say, OEM, right? The integrators, the final line assembly like Airbus, Boeing, Bombardier, Embraer. Lockheed, whoever making the final aircraft. So there are people who delivers systems to them, tier one suppliers, and there are people who deliver subsystems to them, and there are tier three suppliers who delivers components to them. And we have another sector, design industry, engineering industry, and altogether we have another sector, MRO sector. This is the whole aviation, space, defense industry supply chain. Now tell me, in this supply chain, where do you think your company fit? Can you please type in the chat box? Where do you think you fit? Are you in aircraft assembly? Or you are a tier one suppliers who deliver systems? Or you are a tier two suppliers who delivers subsystems? Or you are a tier three company who delivers components? So where do you think you fit in this supply chain? Okay, so I could see some people, most of you are from tier, oh, I could see one also, tier one, two. Okay, tier three, very good. So there are different level of supply chain you may from, but whatever the role you play, either you are from tier one or tier two or tier three, or some people who are not in this tier, doesn't matter. Everyone must understand the concept of quality, safety, reliability. Correct? So how to address that? How you will ensure that across the supply chain, industries are practicing this quality, safety, reliability. So there are some requirements you might have received from your customer through contract. This is the typical customer contractual requirement. They flow down this to you. For example, most of the aero customers ask you to go for some certification. The QMS certification would be like ISO 9001 or AS 9100. Depends on the role what you play in the supply chain. Your customers are mandated these type of certifications. The similar fashion, NADCAP also as part of supplier quality requirement. Your customer might have sent you these type of NADCAP requirement through their contractual obligations. If you look at 9100 as on today in our country, this is the numbers. As on today, I could see there are 1,360 companies certified for AS 9100 in our country. Majority of them are 9100 and few are MROs, maintenance, repair, overhauling industry, and few are distributors. So now, in addition to 9100, some of the customers started mandating. Okay, please mute your. I would like to show one example, one of the customer contractual requirement. Let's take example from Raytheon. Again, the Collins Aerospace, Pratt& Whitney are part of this group. This is their contractual requirement. If you look at your customer PO from this group, they specify this document in their PO. You're supposed to comply this ASQR, Aerospace Supplier Quality Requirement. If you look at this document, they mandates as a supplier, what you're supposed to do? You're supposed to comply. They refer another standard AS 13100 table 2. And they clearly mentioned if you are a manufacturer, if you are a designer, you must have 9100. If you are a distributor, you must have this standard. If you do any of the special processes, some of this manufacturing process you perform in your company, you supposed to have NADCAP. This is one of the examples where you could see customers are flow down the NADCAP as a contractual requirements. In similar fashion, what they referred here, they referred 13,100 table 2. If you go to the 13,100 table 2, here you could see one mandate. So type 4, aero, this is the standard made by aero engine industry for their supply chain. In that standard, they are classifying the suppliers into multiple category. Most of the special processes, people who make any product, if that contain any special process, they are comes under type 4 category. When you say type 4, they must have NADCAP or the customer additional contractual requirement. So this is how the NADCAP have reached the sector. There is a mandate, industry wanted to address this. Then let's see another example. This is another similar contractual requirement. You could see this is from Honeywell. Here Honeywell have a Spark. There also they have mandated if you have any special processes, you must have NADCAP. These are the typical OEM requirement. They mandated NADCAP to the supply chain. Now, do you think any regulators mandates NADCAP? Because this question all came about why NADCAP. So what we have seen so far is, yes, there is a customer contractual requirement. They may ask a company to go for NADCAP. Everyone agree with me, right? Have you came across any such requirement? I'm pretty sure most of the participants came from people who already got NADCAP, right? And few participants may got a contractual requirement or obligation from your customers. You are planning to go for NADCAP. That's fine. Now tell me, where do you, is there any regulatory requirement? So far you came across, is there any regulator who expects you to go for NADCAP? When it's come to regulators, aviation, space, defense industry, we have different type of regulators. We have civil regulators, we have military regulators, right? Civil in India, we have DGCA, and military, we have DGA, QA, and CEMILAC. There are different type of regulators exist. Have you came across NADCAP from these type of regulators? What do you think? Can you please comment in the chat? Have you came across some of the regulators ask you to go for NADCAP? Any of the regulators? Did you came across any such mandate from the regulators? Okay, but fortunately or unfortunately, there is a mandate. Look at this. This is the DGAQA in our military regulator. They have a process called as AFQMS, approval of firm and its quality management system, and they put one prerequisite. If you want to get AFQMS, if you want to get DGQA approval, not for every product, they have their own classification, they have their own process. So if you want to put your product under AFQMS, your organization under AFQMS, look at this particular point number 7. It is mandatory that firm must have 9100 and enable accreditation. And have you noticed this? Anyone have came across this document so far? They also now started recognizing NADCAP. Even if you look at EASA, FAA, they are also started recognizing NADCAP. So the reason why NADCAP industry is moving or why NADCAP people are practicing, there are a lot of reasons, and many company voluntarily follows this. There is no even regulatory requirement, there is no customer contractual requirement, but still industry voluntarily wanted to adopt this as a best practice because they wanted to have the benchmark, they want to benchmark the system, they want to practice the world class system. There are a lot of reasons why industry is going for NADCAP. And this NADCAP program, typically it's made for US Department of Defense. Initially in 1990s, they wanted to address this, and later it became an international program. Previously, there was an abbreviation for NADCAP. Now there is no more such abbreviation. It's only a brand NADCAP. The earlier expansion for the word NADCAP is National Aerospace Defense Contractor Accreditation Program. That's what the earlier name it was. Now it's completely, there is no such abbreviation. Who are all involved in this NADCAP? Because we said this is industry managed program. So who are all involved in this NADCAP program? Everyone in the supply chain. There are OEMs, there are tier 1 companies, there are tier 2 companies, even suppliers also part of this NADCAP program. So this entire NADCAP program is managed by the industry, for the industry, to address the critical processes and promote quality within the aero industry supply chain. So the focus of NADCAP is what are all the critical manufacturing process. They identified it. For those critical manufacturing process, they come up with a robust assessment process. Now, can you name some critical manufacturing process? What are the critical manufacturing process you do in your organization? There are different type of terminology we are using for this. Sometimes we call it a special process. In AS 9100, we have a definition. If the resulting output of a manufacturing process, you cannot be able to verify those process, we call it a special process. We have a definition. But the definition itself now evolved a lot. The purpose of NADCAP is all about critical manufacturing process. Yes, when you say critical manufacturing process or special process, we use what? Coating, very good. Welding. Yes, I could see in the chat box. Heat treating, forging, soldering, welding, bonding, coating, painting, whatever ink you say, right? Any ing, you call it as special process, right? Do you think machining is a special process? Machining is a critical process, like milling. Who is going to define the processes? Yes, additive manufacturing. So we already have a system called as 9100. Industries are certified for 9100. So what is the difference between 9100 and this? We have a standard AS 9100. Why suddenly there is another standard? You have already a class in 8.5.1.2 in your AS 9100. You have a class how to manage a special process, how to validate special process. We already have some system in place, right? So this NADCAP is all about addressing the core activity. So you have a 9100 where you have a lot of clauses, lot of requirements, right? The NADCAP focus is on in class 8 how you are going to manage the critical manufacturing processes. That's what the focus is. Of course, one of the prerequisite to go for NADCAP, you must have a quality management system. That may be AS 9100, equivalent to that NADCAP having their own standard. Either you should have this or that, then only you are eligible to become a NADCAP accredited company. So as of today, overall requires NADCAP, which are all the customer or which are the OEM mandates NADCAP? I would like to show some list. If you are doing business with these companies or you are planning to do business with these companies, they requires, even some company mandates NADCAP. We call them as subscribers. As on today, there are 63 subscribers in the world who subscribes NADCAP program, which means they are part of this NADCAP program. They expect NADCAP across their supply chain. I would like to show some name. Look at this. Airbus, of course, they are the key player, major subscriber. So they mandate NADCAPs of these commodity. If you want to supply any of this part to them, and the part has any of this manufacturing activity, it has a critical process like additive manufacturing, aerostructure assembly, composite, chemical processing, electronics, cable wire harness or printed circuit boards or bare PCBs. If you are supplying the fluid distribution systems, if you are doing any heat treatment activity, if you're performing any measurement inspection activity, metallic material manufacturing, forging, castings, and if you do any material testing, NDT, non-conventional machining, sealants, welding, if you do any of this process, or Airbus is going to do only business with a supplier who has NADCAP for these commodity. We can put this way. Not only Airbus, you could see different type of subscribers. BAE Systems requires it. Bombardier requires it. Eaton requires it. GE requires it. GA, General Atomics, they requires it. Honeywell, even IA also now, they are covering this commodity right now. Lockheed, MBDA, you can name any big player across the globe. MTU, most of the aero engine, Rolls-Royce, yes, someone has said Rolls-Royce. These are all freely available in eAuditNet. Maybe I'll share you where you can get all the resources, right? Even Pratt & Whitney, Collins, Safran, then Boeing. So these are the major players who subscribed this NADCAP program, and they mandate NADCAP through their customer contractual requirement, through the purchase order to the SQRs, right? That's how NADCAP have reached the industry. This is the big picture I could say. And Airbus have their own policy, NADCAP policy. They have a documented NADCAP policy. They do business only with these type of accredited suppliers, not everyone. So now you can able to understand why NADCAP. Clear? Now, what are the commodities right now covered under NADCAP? Right now, NADCAP has 24 commodities. Maybe I'll give you a few minutes. Can you please type in the chat box, what are the commodity you are into? Maybe for this course, for registration purpose, I send you an application form. I think most of you selected the interested commodity there. So let's try to hear from the participant. So you're from which sector or which commodity you are interested? I put this way, right? Because I could see some of my clients are also attending this training. So I know they are from which sector, but let's try to hear from others too. Okay, so I could see composites. Okay, seals, very good. Electronics, hoses. Okay, material testing lab, interesting. Okay, surface enhancement. Okay, heat treatment, good. I think almost we covered all. Huh? Additive manufacturing, I could see. Anyone from aerostructure assembly sector? Coatings, yes, I could see the. Almost in India, we have all across every commodity, we have one company at least, right? For few commodity not yet certified, maybe they are in the process. Let's take example for sealants. Elastomer seal, as on today, no one in the country got NADCAP accreditation. Very good. FAS, already there is a company, very good. Thanks. See, this is the figures I could say. Globally, we have around 8,000 plus accreditations, different commodity, different numbers. Most of the companies are accredited for three major, I could say top three commodity. If we take, it is always entity, chemical processing, heat treatment. That's the top three commodity numbers. If you look at the numbers, all these three always more than 1,000: chemical processing, heat treatment, and entity. Entity is pretty huge. And country wise, you could see this. India, as on today, we have 148 suppliers on different commodities. And this is the exact figures as on today. As on yesterday, I could say yesterday, I've just taken this fact. Maybe you can look at yourself, or you are in the process to be here. Okay, now come to this NADCAP. What is this? What we supposed to do to become a NADCAP accredited company, or how NADCAP accreditation has been granted? See, this program, each and every step is managed by the industry for the industry. When I say industry, the industry consists of the subscriber, right? You have seen A to Z, all the names. They are the industry. They manage this. So how they are managing it? The audit checklist. The NADCAP accreditation will be granted based on the audit result. And audit will be performed by the NADCAP auditors. And they conduct audit on the checklist. We call them as audit criteria, audit checklist. This checklist itself developed by the industry. When I say industry, task group. That is a terminology used in BRI program, task group. The task group is nothing but representation from each commodity. The subject matter experts from that commodity are part of this task group. So this task group has the responsibility for the complete accreditation program. So what they do, they only qualifies the auditors, audit programs, they develop the checklist, and they monitors the entire NADCAP program. And this checklist is very critical for us to understand. Someone asked the question in the chat box, is there any standard for NADCAP? Not a standard. There are plenty of standards. We don't call them as standards. We call them as checklist, audit criteria. There are different type of checklist exist in NADCAP. One is core checklist, we call them as, and other one is slash checklist. These are the two type of checklist we have in NADCAP accreditation program. When you say core checklist, it is core for a particular commodity. For example, let's go back to our commodity list. I am performing NDT. This is only a awareness training. I cannot give a complete walkthrough for each and every checklist, but I'll try to cover as much as possible. Let's see, NDT is the core checklist. Within the NDT, what are the supplemental or can you please mute? Yeah, thank you. Within this particular core NDT process, what are the slash process? And you say slash process, different type of NDT exists, right? Now tell me what type of NDT activity you do in your company as part of aerospace part qualification, as part of aerospace part inspection. What are the different type of NDT you do or you might have accredited for?
Yeah, how does it?
Yes, FPA is another slash. I could say for FPA alone, we have a separate slash checklist. For radiography alone, we have a separate slash checklist. For ultrasonic alone, we have a different slash checklist. So core checklist is for entire non-destructive testing commodity, and slash checklists are specific to the processes what you do. And we also have a concept called as supplemental checklist. This NADCAP is subscribed by various players across the globe. They want to have some additional requirement in addition to the core checklist, in addition to the slash checklist. The subscribers, for example, Honeywell, if they wanted to have an additional requirement, those additional requirements are added in the supplemental checklist. So let's take one example and try to understand what is this checklist are. This is the example. So I have taken one example. Let's see, it is a core checklist for what? Heat treatment. For heat treatment, we have a core checklist called as A7102. And what would be the supplemental checklist within heat treatment? Whatever the requirement they have added, but some OEM have some supplemental requirement, or we call them a subscriber, right? So these are the subscriber requirement. We call them as supplemental checklist. All supplemental checklist identified as a yes. Yes means supplement. Here you could see Rolls-Royce. They have some additional requirement. They have added those additional requirement in this supplemental checklist. So the core checklist means which commodity. Supplemental checklist, we call them as primes requirement or subscriber requirement. Then we have a slash checklist. Within heat treatment, there are different type of heat treatment there are, right? This is one example. Slash 7 is for induction hardening. Slash 8 is for pyrometry. Like this, every commodity have different types of checklist. One is the core checklist, the other one is slash checklist. So the customer specific requirement, the OEM specific requirements are added in the supplemental checklist. So this is how these checklists are developed. And remember, these checklists are developed by the task group, which means developed by the industry, by the subject matter experts. So let's see how different this checklist is. How different this from your existing management system like ISO or AS. See, the checklist focus is more on, let's take one example, simple example, calibration. I think most of you performs this calibration, right? Your AS 9100 has a separate class for calibration, 7.1.5, control of monitoring, measuring resource. So what we do there, you have a process, right? how you are going to calibrate the monitoring device, measuring device, inspection device, test device and all, right? And every device have a serial number, which location you are using the device, what is the frequency of calibration, then what is the calibration methodology, what is the acceptance error limit. That's what we do typically in any calibration process. The same question, if you come to this checklist, it will be different. Specific to composite, what should be the calibration requirement? Specific to heat treatment, what is the calibration requirement? Specific to welding. So commodity wise, those requirements are addressed within this checklist. So I've taken one example. Let's take a simple example for heat treatment. The question will be like this. For example, if you are doing aluminum heat treatment, look at this question. What they say. The furnaces used for treating the aluminum parts must be surveyed at the required tolerance and required temperature. The question goes like this, more specific to your manufacturing processes. Whether your recording instruments have a permanent record, which produces a permanent record, must have a readability of at least 0.1 degree centigrade. The sensor calibration interval between one point to other point must not exceed 140 degrees centigrade. So these type of specific questions will be asked in those audit checklist. That is why the focus is more on technical here rather than the system. The checklist content looks like this. This is where I have taken that question. Look at this question, 3.3.1. What is the question here? Whether the sensors, you have a thermocouple in your company, in your furnace, right? Or in the oven. Whether this thermocouple is calibrated, of course, every company is doing calibration of the thermocouple. But what is the calibration interval or the point between calibration point between one point to the next point must not exceed 140 degrees centigrade. And the checklist has only three simple criteria. Either you should say yes or no or not applicable. Yes means conformity. You need to prove it by giving evidence. No means straight away it's a non-conformity. Not applicable means you need to justify. Look at this guidance here. In my company, I am using this sensor. I am calibrating it only for single temperature. Then only you can claim not applicable. If you look at the previous question here, 3.3, 3.2, there is no option called as not applicable, which means you must answer this. This is the way NADCAP audit will happen. Even when you do internal audit for NADCAP, this is the way you need to conduct audit. So each question in the checklist, either you must answer yes or no or not applicable. Yes means you need to prove it. How you can prove it? Prove via evidences, which means there should be a procedure in your company. What should be the calibration interval point between one temperature to the next temperature? There should be a procedure. We need to prove it. Or work instruction, you need to prove it. Then perform calibration as per your process procedures. Then only you can say yes. No means very clear. It's a non-conformity. Not applicable, justify why it is not applicable. So this is how the NADCAP audit checklist, it's completely developed by, managed by the industry. And remember, these checklists are keep on getting amended and they are very dynamic. It is your responsibility, always focus on what is the current version, because they are also learning from the industry, right? So this is how this checklist are periodically developed, amended and released. And the same checklist will be used by the auditors in the NADCAP audit. The next important step is, who is going to come for audit? NADCAP PRI have a separate program how to qualify the auditors. Directly subscribers are involving in this. Who can become a NADCAP auditor? They have their own internal voting process. They recruits the potential auditors and they train them, they qualify them, and they put them in the contract for performing NADCAP audit. And subject matter expertise only can become a NADCAP auditor. And they have their own criteria. And this whole selection of auditor, approval of auditor, everything is managed by the industry. It is not like a management system auditor or certification body auditor. After a lead auditor course, you can become an auditor. No. Because industry is purely industry controlled process. Then, once you scheduled for your audit, once you selected the scope and commodity, selected the checklist, PRI assigns some auditors. The role of auditor here is only performing the audit, only conduct the audit. Auditor will not going to influence anything on NC closures. The role of auditor is simply conduct the audit as per checklist. And all audit must be on-site. And we call it as job audit. In front of auditor, you need to perform the job. If you are doing forging, in front of auditor, you need to forge the part. If you are doing electronics, in front of auditor, you need to make the printed circuit board assembly. So that will be audited by the NADCAP auditor. And they will fill all the applicable checklist and they will report the findings, either conformity or non-conformity. Then the audit results, the NC closures, review of NC, all are not performed by the auditors. Those are all performed by the PRI staff engineer. So industry wanted to isolate the audit process and the NCR review process. Both cannot be done by a same person. To build confidence, to build independence, so they have this approach. There is another team, staff engineers, who reviews your non-conformity corrective action. Based on that, they may conclude and they move it to the task group. And whatever the corrective actions, those are all reviewed and finally it go for voting. In voting, the task group only grants you the accreditation. So everywhere there are checks and balances. Once you are got accreditation and periodic evaluation, monitoring, re-accreditation audit, everything is managed by the industry. So this is the complete step. Everything is managed by the industry for the industry. Okay, now there is a customer contractual requirement. They ask us to go for NADCAP. Our management decided to go for NADCAP. What next? There are some prerequisites. The very first prerequisite is you must have a basic quality system before moving to for NADCAP. What is that prerequisite? You must have a basic quality system that is either AS 9100 or equivalent to that. We have a standard that is called as AC 7004. If you are a laboratory, the two independent laboratory, you must have 17025 accreditation or equivalent to that AC 7006. This is the prerequisite for NADCAP. Now tell me what type of quality system you have in your company. Can you please type in the chat box what you have? Either 9100. If you are an independent third-party laboratory, you are holding the 17025 accreditation, or anyone have chosen the alternate like 7004, 7006. Most of you, because I given you a number na, in India as on today, 1300 plus companies certified for AS. Most of them, but few people don't choose that because of most of the entity independent entity house, they went for AQS. I have seen some of the players here who went for AC 7004. Laboratory, of course, they got 17025 NABL or equivalent to that. Good. Because this is a prerequisite. Without this, you cannot be able to go for NADCAP. Is that clear to all? This is a prerequisite. So, okay, I have got a QMS. Now what next? Try to get these type of information. We have a website, everyone make a note. The website is eAuditNet. There is a website eauditnet.com. You can create your credentials in this. It's a free resource. There is no charge. There you can download all the checklist, whatever I have shown or whatever you are going to discuss in this training. Everything is freely available there. Not only checklist, you need to consider various other aspects. How this checklist has been made, they have not invented the checklist actually. The input for checklist is from the industry standard. There are a lot of industry standard, a lot of customer requirements. Let's take example. For your industry, what type of standard we follow? Let's say welding. If you are performing welding process, do you follow any standard in welding? What standard you follow for welding process? Can anyone type? For welding activity. IPC is for electronics. Welding, AWS, very good, AWS. D17.1, 17.2, ASME, perfect. So this checklist itself developed based on the industry standard. Let's take additive manufacturing. Do we follow any standard for additive manufacturing? Is there any standards? Because the technology itself new. Of course, there are some standard exist. After printed a metal part, how you are going to test, evaluate the metal part? Is there any standard we have? Is there any test method we practice? Exactly. There are AM standard. So this checklist itself developed based on those standards. The task group is not invented the checklist. So the input for checklist is industry standard, sometimes customer requirements. Yeah, there are a lot of military spec, very good. Most of the chemical processing checklist and all, passivation, anodizing, all purely from military spec. Then of course, customers have added their own additional requirement. We call them as subscriber, right? Subscriber requirement, supplemental requirement. And NADCAP also releases the audit handbook, because people may wrongly interpret some of the requirement. So to avoid this, they publishes the auditor handbook. This is for auditors only, but you can also use that. They made it available for your users also. So these are the three critical documents you need to explore before starting your NADCAP journey. So what are the steps involved in NADCAP? Look at this. Typically, I could put it in macro level. First, plan for NADCAP. Second one is qualify. You need to qualify. What you need to qualify? Qualify the equipment, qualify the people, qualify the process, right? After qualification, practice it in accordance with NADCAP checklist, then prove it. So let's discuss this in detail. The very first step in NADCAP audit process is there a mandate from your customer whether they ask you to go for NADCAP? Have a clarity. If there is no such mandate, sometime what will happen? Like chicken or egg story. Without NADCAP, no customers place you a contract, right? To get NADCAP, do you need a contract? There is no such mandate. There is a provision available in NADCAP accreditation program. You need to talk to the staff engineer and get a clarity saying that I don't have any aerospace part. I don't have any defense part, but I need NADCAP. What to do? So they expect you to demonstrate the applicable checklist. For example, I'm doing welding activity. I don't have any aerospace customer purchase order to perform welding. What I need to do then? What you need to do now is apply AWS standard on a non-aerospace or non-defense part, right? Prove it. That is a way to obtain. The same thing for every commodity. If you have a customer mandate, very clear, follow that. If don't, you need to identify that. It may be dummy job, it may be actual job, that's your choice, but you need to declare the facts. So as a supplier, you need to request an audit. How can request? Everything is through that website. What is the website? Can anyone type? What is the website? Have you noted that? Let's see how you. Very good. eAuditNet.com. Exactly. That is the website. So there you need to log in as a user, as a company user, as a personal user. You cannot able to get the schedule the audit as a official company user. Then you need to come up with a scope. What is the scope? There are different type of scope you have, right? Here only people have lot of confusion or they don't understand what to include in the NADCAP scope. You cannot include everything under sun, right? And some people have a doubt here. Can a club audit? If auditor, NADCAP auditor comes, if I'm doing welding, if I'm doing electronics, if I'm doing chemical or chemical processing, all can be clubbed in one audit and I can get NADCAP? No, it is not possible. Each commodity, you need to clearly plan and audit must be held separately because you need to prove your technical competence. Subject matter experts, they are only going to come and conduct audit. Clear? And it is also location specific. There is one concept called as satellite audit. If the next facility is nearby your facility, I am doing welding, laser welding in this plant. I am doing fusion welding in next plant. Both the distance is within 50 mile, then you can club in one audit. Otherwise, every audit is separate. It is location specific, process specific. Clear? And there is one audit checklist. It is called as AC 7000. This is mandatory for all commodity. Whatever commodity you go for NADCAP, this checklist you must follow. What is there in this checklist? They talk about your basic QMS, that AS 9100. What is the basic QMS you have in place? Or the 17025 accreditation. Is there any previous audit NC? What is the closure corrective action status? Then how you are going to manage changes within your critical production processes? And how you are going to prevent the fraudulent activity? Unfortunately, there are a lot of fraudulent practices exist in the supply chain. So industry is very concerned on that. That is the reason in AC 7000 they added fraudulent activity. And acceptance authority media. There are some requirements which is mandated for every commodity. Then commodity wise, lot of checklists are there. So I could see you are from different commodity. You can connect here after. Let's see. Let's start with additive manufacturing. We have a separate checklist for additive manufacturing. This comes under AC 7131. This is a new checklist they have recently launched. Right now, this is under welding only. Under welding, we have a separate checklist 7110/14. Now they have taken this from welding and going to launch as a separate checklist for both laser beam metallic powder bed additive manufacturing and electron beam metallic bed powder additive manufacturing. So you can choose whatever you want. If you have both the capability, select both and you can go for NADCAP, or you can select whatever you want. But there are some supplemental requirement that also we need to consider. If your customer mandates that, or your additive manufacturing spec mandates that, you're supposed to select the applicable supplemental requirement. For example, I will do stress relief. After additive printing, I need to do metallographic evaluation, right? We have discussed this now, sir. All these checklists are developed by the task group, subject matter expert. For every commodity, there is a standards. They are making it, right? Okay. I don't know. Someone else. Yes. Then. So let's anyone from this group, from additive manufacturing group, just look at this. You can make a note. what checklist may relevant to you. 7131 under this /1. This is a new one, yet to, I could say, recently launched, I could say, right? Then come to aerostructure assembly. Here we have AC 7135. Under this, what type of assembly work you do as a aerostructure? You do fastening activity, or you do some bonding, or you are doing bushing bearing installation, or sealing, depends on the scope what you do. See, in NADCAP accreditation, there is no mandate you should select every checklist. Whatever applicable to you, whatever the infrastructure you have, whatever the capability you have, those things only you can select. These are the checklists relevant to aero structure assembly. And there is one more checklist, AC 7004. This is people who don't have 9100. For them, there is an equivalent standard. That is what it is. Then chemical processing. Yes, here there are a lot of checklists. 7108 is the main checklist, core checklist, I could say. Then come to the /. There are a lot of / checklist. Painting, dry film coating, etch inspection process, preparing the surface for metal bond. As part of chemical processing, you're supposed to perform lot of analysis and test, right? So for that, we have a checklist /4 solution analysis and test. Then chemical milling, alpha case removal, then cleanliness verification. As part of chemical processing, you're supposed to verify the cleanliness. For that, we have a checklist. Then if you do vacuum cadmium, then aluminum ion vapor deposition, anodizing is /8, electroplating is /9, electrolysis plating is /10, conversion coating is /11. Then standalone cleaning, descaling, passivation, electropolishing, if you do, that comes under /12. Brush anodizing and plating. See, it is not just selecting the checklist. The next question we need to ask ourselves, against which standard, which specification I am doing. Let's take example, anodizing. Is anyone from chemical processing sector here? Now tell me, if you do anodizing, against which spec you are doing anodizing? Is there any customer given spec, or customer drawing talks about some mill spec, AMS spec? Correct? Exactly. Yes. So you need to select that also in the scope, because for anodizing alone, there are plenty of standards, right? What type of anodizing you do? It's hard anodize, or sulfuric acid, or anodized magnesium, anodized titanium. So depends on the part number. What is the customer engineering specification? What it calls for? See, so many standards only for anodizing. You need to precisely choose your scope. Clear? Very good. Then come to coating. This is another emerging commodity in our country. There are a lot of coatings. Thermal spray we do. If you do thermal spray, then /17109. Then vapor deposited coating means /2. Diffusion coating means /3. Stripping of a coated material, because you're supposed to do stripping, right? Then /4. After coating, how to test? There is a separate checklist /5. And /6 is if you are doing plating of coated part, how to do. Then as part of coating, if you do heat treatment, there is a separate checklist. Then grinding, if you do, then there is a separate checklist. So these are the different commodity comes under. This coating is only not conformal coating. Conformal coating is completely different. That comes under chemical processing. Right? Now what we are discussing is coating on the metal part, like thermal spray. These are the different commodity comes under coating. Clear? Then of course composites. There are different type of composites. Yeah, I could see there are some people responded from composite. Now tell me what type of processes you have in composite manufacturing activity. Are you into compression molding, core processing, or you are a kitting service provider, or you do liquid resin processing, or you do metal bond? So depends on your capability. See, you need to consider various aspects while defining the scope. Talk to the customer. Look at the customer engineering specification. I don't know what is the customer engineering specification. I don't know what to select. Then don't do NADCAP. Because you are not sure about what is your scope, right? Talk to the potential customer, get their RFQ, or you can do some analysis, look at your capability. Sometimes what will happen? Without knowing the intention, you might have selected some checklist. Later, you never get that business. There is no use, right? Yes, I'm coming to your question. Yes, I'm not finished the slide. There are a lot of scope yet to cover, right? It is not enough to prove you are doing this process in composite manufacturing. You need to also prove after that what are the tests you do. This is one of the biggest issue here. In our country, many manufacturer doesn't have adequate laboratory facility. They have very good state of art of manufacturing facility. When it's come to laboratory test, material testing, there we have a concern. There are a lot of unique requirement here. How you are going to do test your material. AAC 7122 /1 is for mechanical testing and /2 is for physical testing and /3 is for chemical testing and /4 is for thermal analysis and /5 is for flammability. Now tell me, are you doing all this test as part of your composite testing? You may do in-house or you may do with external laboratory. It's your choice based on your customer contractual requirement. You need to take this decision. Correct. So when you say mechanical testing after composite activity, manufacturing activity, you may do tensile, right? You may do compression. You may do shear test. It depends on the specification you're supposed to do all this test. In physical testing, of course, hardness, then the water absorption, the various activity you're supposed to do. These are all addressed in this checklist. Then this is quite interesting checklist. Machining, conventional machining as a special process. For some of the mission critical, fracture critical, safety critical parts, your customer may expect you to go for NADCAP for even machining process. Many point of time we may have a thought that machining is not a special process, but in aerospace defense, some customer mandates machining also a special process. Like hole making, broaching, turning, milling, grinding, edge treatment. These are all considered as a special process. So we have a checklist for these processes, AC 7126. Then elastomer seals. As on today, no one in India got this scope, but we are working on few companies now. Under this, there are multiple category. I could see there are some people here also attending from this commodity. Now tell me what you do in this. What type of seals you are making? Is it molded rings or compression seals? Or molded in place gaskets or plate seals? It depends on the, again, what spec you are using for this. Then here also the problem is the testing, test laboratory. You may have state-of-the-art facility test, manufacture these sealants. But the problem is what type of test you're supposed to do after manufacturing. Again, tensile elongation as part of mechanical testing, hardness, specific gravity, deterioration as part of physical testing you need to do. Then thermal analysis. So these are all the different commodity comes under elastomer seals. Then come to electronic sector. Electronic sector I've divided into 3 subcategory. One is bare printed boards. The other one is PCB assembly. The other one is cable wire harness. I could see some of the participants from electronic sector too. So these are the different checklists for printed boards. AC 7119. Different type of boards. Flexible and rigid flexible boards. And operators who is working in this manufacturing process supposed to be qualified. For them there is a checklist. Then microwave boards, in-house fabrication of boards. Then there is a checklist for board final finish and X-ray fluorescence. Then drilling on the boards, how to do either mechanical or laser. Then how to test electrically the boards, there is a checklist. And there is a new checklist recently established /11 addendums. For space and military sector, they come up with a new checklist. A lot of additional requirements. These are all not mandated in commercial aircraft, and civil aircraft majority accepts this. But 7119/11, it's very unique, newly added checklist to address space and military avionics applications. Then come to PCB assemblies. 7120. Again, /1 is for personal qualification. Then when you do general soldering, manual soldering, /2, PTH is /3, SMT is for /4. When you do mixed metallurgy for BGAs, /5. If you do lead-free soldering, then /6. Someone has to conformal coating. That coating comes here. This is electronics conformal coating. That comes under /7. Then /8 is for encapsulation. /9 is for programming of your SMT lines. Then /10 is for testing. And /11 is for refinishing of electronic component. And /12 is deband. The entire life cycle of PCB assembly is covered here. And suppose one more standard recently they have added /13. That is again for military and space applications. For cable wire harness, similar way we have 7121. Here also operator qualification, we have a separate standard. Based on that standard, they come up with this checklist /1. Then during the cable wire harness, when you do soldering, /2. Splices and ultrasonic welding, if you do /3. Wire bundling, /4. Again, you can able to, by this time you can connect. These electronics checklists are made based on which standard? What do you think? What is the input to develop these type of checklist for bare PCBs, for cable wire harness, for electronics? Yes, IPC, JSTD also, right? Correct. And even parting, coaxial, biaxial, ESD. If you are considering in your cable wire harness as part of customer contractual requirement, then there is a checklist. IDC, finished assemblies. And this is another new commodity recently launched. One company already got this in our country. I think IAMPL got this. FA also considered as one of the critical processes. FA we never consider, but the aerospace industry expects. Sorry? Hello. Yeah. First article, inspection itself have a separate checklist. NADCAP is offering accreditation for FAI, and some customer mandates this. Slowly, sooner or later, you may also get a requirement. KC 7150. Then come to fluid distribution system. This is another big commodity. 7112 is the main checklist. People who are making hoses for this fluid distributions, right? For them, we have a separate checklist. When you say hoses, different type of hoses may be there. Maybe PTFE hose or metal hose or elastomeric tube. Fire
Sorry
sleeve.
to disturb you, sir. Hello.
Yes.
Hello. Sorry to disturb. What is the difference between 7150 and AS 9102?
No,
First article inspection.
no. 7150 is the checklist for FAI. It's a checklist
Okay.
number,
Okay.
right? How to do FAI? Everybody having their own standard AS 9102. That is a standard how to do FAI. But that is not a process, right? So you need to have a process as per AC 7150. Then only some of your customer who get safety critical product, mission critical product from their suppliers, they expect their supplier should have an accreditation. For example, who is the person performing FAI, what is their competency criteria that may not defined in AS 9102. This checklist will tells you what is the method to perform FAI. So this is a checklist developed by the industry and they wanted to flow down this to not every supplier. Don't be scared. It's not for every supplier. It depends on the contractual requirements.
Okay, fine, sir. Thank you.
Then come to this fluid distribution system. 7112/1 is for hose manufacturer. Either you do PTFE hose or steel hose. It depends on the titanium hose. So for them it is /1 and /2 is for fittings who makes fittings, right? And /3 is for people who make coupling and formed sheet metal components, which part of goes into fluid distribution system. And /4 is for assembly, the complete fluid distribution hose assembly. And /6 is for titanium and /7 is for fabricated assemblies. And we have another checklist within fluid distribution system 7123. We call them as VAD, value added hose assembly distributors. So these are the different commodity under fluid distribution system. Then come to this big commodity. Most of our NADCAP accredited companies in our country under three commodity. One is chemical processing, second one is this heat treatment, and third one is NDT. So 7102 is the basic checklist for heat treatment. Within heat treatment, there are a lot of slash checklist. /1 is for brazing, all type of brazing, vacuum brazing, right? Then /3 is for carburizing, and /4 is for iron plasma, salt bath nitriding. /5, it's what part of heat treatment you're supposed to do hardness testing, right? If that is your specification calls for, if that is a customer contractual requirement, then you need to select /5. Then /6 is for HIP, and /7 is for induction hardening, and /8 is one of the mandatory checklist as part of heat treatment for pyrometry. Then /9 is for sintering and metal injection molding. That's another emerging commodity in our country. Then localized heat treatment means /10. And there is one more aligned checklist along with this comes 7110 brazing for induction and torch brazing. And material testing lab, there are some more checklist. Those are all covered under heat treatment. If these are all mandated by your specification, then you can consider. After heat treatment, if you do grain size, metallography, then you need to select this. After heat treatment, if you do tensile, your customer spec calls for it, then you can select this checklist. So these are the different commodities comes under heat treatment. Then material testing laboratory. Yes, material testing labs. It's all about a critical commodity. Now, some customer mandates, you're supposed to perform this test only under NADCAP accredited material testing lab. They may not consider or they may not accept 17025 accredited lab, NABL lab. They may expect NADCAP for material testing lab. So for them, this is the checklist. 7101/1 is general checklist. /2 for chemical analysis testing lab, and /3 is for mechanical testing lab, and /4 is for metallography and micro indentation hardness lab, and /5. This is what we have seen in heat treatment, the previous slide, right? General hardness testing and also conductivity test. Then /6 is for corrosion test, and /7 where you do specimen preparation, where for your all test you prepare specimen, and there is a localized heat treatment if you do, then /9. Then /11 is for fastener testing. And there is one more mandate here. Your lab supposed to participate in some proficiency testing, right? And round robin test. For that, there is a /14. After coating, remember we discussed the thermal spray that needs to be evaluated. If you do that business, then /5 is applicable to you. Welding, after welding, you evaluate the welding means that is /30. So these are the different checklist comes under material testing lab. Typically, the NADCAP commodity classifies the material testing into two. One is metallic material testing, other one is non-metallic material testing. Whatever we discussed now, this is purely metallic material test. Non-metallic like composites, sealants, seals, how to test, that comes under a different commodity that is called as non-metallic material testing lab. Then measurement inspection itself considered as a critical process. It's like CMM, right? If you have a CMM, again, this is also not mandated by every customer. Some customers, based on their criticality, they may ask you to follow. I think Rolls-Royce have started this. We need to hear from others too. So 7130, that's for measurement and inspection. /1 is for CMM. /2 is for laser tracker. And /3 is for your arm, 3D arm. And /4 is for your 3DSL. And /5, when you performing airflow, mass airflow measurement of engine parts, then /5. And /6 is general inspection. Then metallic material manufacturing, 7140, that's for forgings. Then castings, sand castings. Then if you manufacture metallic powder, for them also we have a checklist. So these are the different checklist comes under metallic material manufacturing. Next, non-conventional machining, where all your EDM, then laser beam machining, laser cutting, those are all covered under this commodity. 7116. /2 is the electrochemical grinding, and /3 is EDM, and /4 is laser beam drilling, cutting, all part of this. /5 is laser part marking, and /6 is for spark erosion grinding, and /7 is for water jet machining. Then come to the famous entity. Of course, there are plenty of companies in our country got this. Most of that, if you say top one, this is what the major commodity occupies the checklist, top 5 checklist. If you say this is one of the checklist. 7114, there you can see /1 for penetrant survey, /2 for magnetic particle, /3 for ultrasonic, /4 for radiography, /5 for eddy current, and /6 for DDA, and /8 for PSL, and /9 for remote imaging and film viewing. For that we have a commodity, and /10 that is for again DDA, PSL, CR, because previously they have combined. Now they wanted to split it up. And /11, that is another important checklist. People who are certifying personals, there are some personal entity qualification body, for their boards we have a checklist. Then outside agency survey, for them there is another checklist. And this /2 we get it from chemical processing, H inspection process. So these are all covered under entity. Then come to this non-metallic material manufacturing. People who are into non-metallic material manufacturing. This is not different from composite. Composite is isolated. This is other than composite, any non-metallic material you manufacturing it. For example, resin manufacturer, thermoset pre-preg manufacturers, adhesive film manufacturer, core manufacturer, fiber manufacturer. For them, we have a lot of checklists. Anyone from this commodity attending this training who are into this non-metallic material like resin, you are supplying this product to an aircraft industry, they mandate NADCAP to you, then this checklist is applicable to you. Composites and non-metallic material manufacturing. After production, we supposed to test it, right? So how to test? Where to test? That's what the next commodity, non-metallic material testing. Here also you supposed to perform test similar to a metallic material test, mechanical test, physical test, chemical test, thermal analysis, flammability. So for them, there is a different checklist. Yeah, material, we already seen, sir, material testing lab. For metallic, we have a separate different type of checklist. What we are seeing is non-metallic. For material testing lab, we have 7101 series. Everything is there. Chemical, mechanical, metallography, hardness, corrosion, everything is there. Internal auditor qualification, yes, sir. See, you're supposed to be a subject matter experts, right? Otherwise, we cannot perform this audit, right? Then sealant is another commodity. Sealant manufacturer, repackagers, if anyone performing the sealants, then for them it's a separate standard. Then short peening, surface enhancement. We have a lot of checklist. Either it is computer controlled short peening or automated peening, how you are doing peen forming, then manual peening. There are different type of checklist under 7117. Then come to welding. So 7110 under this, different type of weldings are covered: brazing, flash welding, EBW, then resistance welding, then fusion welding, then laser welding, friction inertia welding, diffusion welding, welder operator qualification checklist. After welding, how to evaluate the weld parts, then laser electron beam welding. So these are the mainly for this is what now moved as a separate commodity under additive manufacturing, the /14. No, sir. Fiber optic, there is no such NADCAP. As of now, no. So this is what right now NADCAP is offering different commodity. We are expecting two more commodity yet to come under NADCAP. One is that cap I mentioned, counterfeit part that they wanted to cover under NADCAP now. And one more commodity they are coming up comes under cyber security of physical products. This is both extension of electronics only, mainly PCB, electrical, electromechanical assemblies. So they wanted to come up with this. Maybe this year end, we could see these two commodity. And there is one more commodity, DIs, that's mainly for MRO sectors. So this is what different type of commodity right now NADCAP is offering the accreditation services. Right? See, you should have internal process, how to qualify internal auditors, right? So NADCAP doesn't dictate. You should have internal process and prove it. Right? You define the competency criteria, right? Cyber security checklist not yet published. It's yet to develop. Once it's published, it's available to the public knowledge. Right? Right now, we cannot able to access. Okay. Okay. Now, yes, NADCAP, yes, it requires, what is that cutting? Yes, under non-metallic material manufacturing, right? You need to go through this checklist. Go to eAuditNet, subscribe and look at 7124. There you could see this checklist, right? Fabrics, again, you could see this particular checklist here. And pre-preg, you could see this checklist. And composite, you can refer both the checklist, composite checklist as well as non-metallic material manufacturing checklist. Okay, now by doing this all research, I came to know, yes, this is the checklist I want to do. I have this facility with me. My operators are qualified. Whatever the checklist says, I have established in my company. So let's go for an audit. So as a supplier, you have to visit to this website. Remember, eAuditNet.com, right? Create a user ID, password in your company name and get the access, right? There you can get all this information, all this checklist you can download from there, right? And there are a lot of procedures. You need to undergo all this, read all these procedures. It's very critical to understand the entire NADCAP program because a lot of risks are involved in this. I would like to highlight few risks maybe when you come to the end of this session. Because those without knowing this risk, if you go for NADCAP, so definitely you burn your fingers. So once I have decided the scope, then what is the next step? Okay, I will schedule an audit. So I'll get a quote and audit will be scheduled. NADCAP assigned some auditor anywhere in the globe. And before that, what you need to check? You have valid AS 9100 in place. That's very critical, right? Without valid AS 9100 or without valid QMS, if you are a laboratory, you must have valid 17025. Here, many time what will happen, your NABL scope may be different from what NADCAP customer specification scope says. For example, they wanted to do tensile testing as per ASTM spec, but my NABL scope says I am performing tensile as per Indian standard. Then it's very difficult, right? So ensure the scopes are matching. Even in AS 9100 also you have to be very careful. Some company, what they do, they got AS 9100 and they claimed special process is not applicable. Then you are contradicting your statement, right? NADCAP itself for critical special process. In your AS 9100, you are saying I am not doing any special process. It is not applicable means it won't be considered as a valid QMS. So these are the some of the risk factor you need to consider while scheduling the audit, right? Then please try to understand when you are scheduling audit, you can easily to get the audit date. But before that, you need to prove that you have job with you, you have product with you. You need to demonstrate, process the hardware, assemble the material, prove it. Then only you can able to schedule the audit. Correct? Then, if you don't have any aerospace customer, you are not going to demonstrate or you can't be able to demonstrate an aerospace part, talk to the staff engineer and get a clarity, right? Otherwise, both the parties will be in trouble, NADCAP as well as your organization, correct? Typically, audit dates are available in every quarter. You can select when you are ready, when your facility is ready, when your people is ready, right? But here I would like to highlight one risk factor. If you scheduled the audit, if you got an audit date, if you want to postpone the audit, there will be a penalty. Penalty may up to go to $4,000. So be careful. Just like that, don't schedule an audit. Just because you feel pressure from your customer to satisfy your customer for temporary needs, you schedule an audit date and show it to the customer. Yes, I have scheduled audit. Then if you are not honoring the date, you will lose $4,000, right? So I fixed the audit date. Then what I need to do before 30 days of the exact audit date, what you supposed to do? You must conduct one self audit. Whatever the scope you have selected, everything you must conduct one audit and share the entire audit report to eAuditNet. This is one of the mandatory requirement. If you are not doing this, then you will get an NC. I could see one question, ILAC 17025, those are not related to this topic. See, ILAC is nothing but what you can say, Indian laboratories can go for 17025 accreditation. Those accreditation can be granted by accreditation boards, right? In India, we have NABL. Similar way, a lot of other parts also there in our country. This NABL and other bodies are part of ILAC. ILAC means International Laboratory Accreditation Cooperation, which means the lab certified reports can be recognized across the globe. That is what the intention of ILAC. Clear? ILAC is like an agreement. It's another organization across the globe. Whoever granting laboratory accreditation, they are member in ILAC. That is what it is. Okay. So now come back to our subject. So before 30 days, you need to conduct a self audit, all the scope what you have selected and upload it along with your procedure, along with your content. This is very important. Many people fail in this. If you look at the top 10 NC, one of the NC is always this: self-audit is not done properly, self-audit is not covered all the scope, number of jobs used in self-audit is not adequate. So every time people getting NC under self-audit, even in self-audit, if you declared anything no as a NC, you supposed to close before auditor arrives your facility. And don't share all sensitive information in your self-audit. While scheduling audit, you need to declare you have any ITAR part. ITAR part, if you are doing ITAR part, you need to declare, then only US citizens will come and perform audit. Which means US auditors only allowed to audit the ITAR parts. So once checklist is done, you are uploading before the 30 days of the audit date, then what next? So auditor visit your facility, performs the audit. They may find some conformities, non-conformities, all NCs, they will report it to you. Of course, NCs will be classified as a major NC, minor NC, right? So ITAR part means it's US government, international arms regulations. There are some regulations from US Department of Defense. So you can ask your customer before getting any part, before accepting any order, check is it ITAR part or not. Your customer will tell you and educate you, right? Okay, the NCs are classified as the major NC, minor NC. So major NC is always what? System breakdown, a defective part may reach your customer, integrity is affected, those are all comes under major. Minor is sample down, which is failed. So based on this, they will report the grade the NCs, major, minor. And here there are some risk factor is involved. If you get more major NC, audit will be declared as a failed audit. So you have to be very clear on this, accepting the terms, right? Yes, potential impact, affect the form, fit, function, performance, safety, right? Potential safety impact, criticality, integrity, unethical practices, you are forging some document, those are all comes under major NCs, right? Fraudulent activities. Okay, once the auditor leaves the facility, what happens next? So you need to look at the corrective action, give the root cause analysis, come up with the proper corrective action, right? NADCAP have their own RCCA process, right? So how many measure and see? It's up to you, sir, how many you want. It's not like that. You have to prove that you are meeting all the requirements, right? So there are some criteria I'll explain to that. So now look at here, a number of NCs are major, minor, they have their own criteria. It's very commodity to commodity, right? Heat treatment have different criteria, chemical processing, like commodity wise, we have different criteria. But here, what the concern here is, once you are accepting the NC, auditor leaves the facility, then the clock starts. There is a due dates. You have to be stick to this due dates. First response you have to give within 21 days. Then the next response, subsequent response must be done within 7 days. So this is the timeline. Within this timeline, you need to close the NC. Otherwise, your audit will be declared as a failed audit, or it's going to affect your status, certification status. There are some situation, NADCAP audit will be declared as a failed audit. So these are the risk factor I mentioned now. So please understand these risk factors. Sometimes you want to stop the audit. Why? You said, okay, the machine is under breakdown. I cannot perform audit. I don't want to make this worse because day one itself, I got 10 NC. Further 3 more days, I have to face audit. So why to take this risk? Let's stop. That is one option. Second, excessive number of findings. So that's what some participant have asked. How many major NC I can get? So there is no criteria. You don't fix a target to get major NC, but this is the procedure. For example, I'll give some example. For example, heat treatment audit. First time you are going, your audit is scheduled for 7 days. The limit is 12 NCs totally. Out of day one, you can get 2 major. Assume day one itself you got 3 major, means your audit will be declared as a failed audit. Second day, third day, fourth day. So every day, how many NCs are allowed? Total, it's accumulated, it's total quantity. So totally, you are allowed to have only 4 days audit, means 12 NC. Within that, 7 major NCs are allowed. Like this, commodity wise, the numbers keep on getting changed, right? So there is another way of considering audit will be declared as a failed audit. The third option is severity of the finding, that unethical behaviors, malpractices, forging the documents and all. And NCR, remember within this timeline, you need to close your NCs. You have only 4 cycles. Within 4 cycle, you must complete your NCs. Otherwise, it will be declared as a failed audit. Sometimes you won't respond. That is also considered as a failed audit. Clear? This is what the concept of failure process. So you have to be very careful. Once the audit is failed, what to do? What is the way out? Which means you have to close all the NCs. Accreditation will not be granted. You will face on risk mitigation audit. Till that time, you won't be granted accreditation. Otherwise, what will happen? You have to wait for 2 years. After 24th month, you re-enter as a fresh application, fresh company. Right? This is the concept behind this. Okay, so once the NCR is reported within this stipulated time, that's what, how many NCs, there is a threshold. It's very number of days, how many days scheduled for your audit and how many major NC you get every day. It's very commodity to commodity. There is no fixed rule for entire NADCAP. This is the criteria. They won't made that because task group only decides it. Composites, it's different. Material testing lab, it's different, right? Okay, finally, your staff engineer have reviewed your NC, accepted your NCs, then it moves to task group. Task group finally do voting and they will only give you the accreditation. So everything ends, not ends, starts there. So task group grants you accreditation. There your NADCAP journey starts. Clear? So once you accredited, you will get a certificate like this. Which company, which address, which location, which commodity. This is the typical first page of NADCAP certificate. But second page is also very important. Which scope you are accredited for. This is one sample again. They will say which address, which company, what is the scope. They will not give NADCAP for blanket scope, right? It should be specific. You are doing heat treatment. You are doing nickel alloy heat treatment. You are doing as per so and so spec. You are doing as per customer spec. It should be very specific. Okay, once you are accredited, is it lifetime accreditation? No. There will be a re-accreditation audit at first year. And you have to undergo minimum 3 audit, 1 initial audit and 2 accreditation audit. After that, if it did within the limit, the number of NCs, there is a concept called as merit. There are 2 types of merit. Your next audit will be on 18th month, or even after that also you are maintaining. There is no big NCs. The number of NCs is not exceeding the threshold. Your next audit will be on 24th month. There are many companies in India who got this merit even 18th month and 24th month. It's very much possible. Right? Everything is depends on the merit. This is what all about the journey of NADCAP. So if a company wanted to go for NADCAP, what they need to do? So please consider, identify who is your customer, which commodity you wanted to go. Within the commodity, what is the scope? Very clear. Then internally form a core team within your company. Now, by looking at this, so far whatever discussed, tell me, in your company, who is going to lead or who are all going to involve in this NADCAP process? Which are the department do you think required to involve in this? Can you please type? Look at your own company commodity. Whom do you think you want to involve? A lot of players, right? Whom do you think you want to involve in this entire NADCAP journey? Yes, try to get input from various stakeholders. I never seen no one considered suppliers and customers. Huh? Don't you think they are also part of this? Your customers and suppliers, right? They are the major stakeholders because you are getting a lot of services from your suppliers. And the customer is the ultimate, what you can say, engineering authority to tell you what spec to follow, right? What to include in the scope. Then select the exact checklist based on the customer scope. Consider maintenance team also, mission capability, right? That is also very critical to understand. Then declare your part is ITAR or not. Then come to the qualification activity, qualifying the process, qualifying the machine, qualifying the people, correct? Qualifying the infrastructure, the plenty of things we need to consider here. Then training. Remember, the whole audit, almost 60 to 70% of audit time will be spent with the operators and inspectors. They should be trained. They should be educated. They need to practice this. Because at the end of the day, you need to prove your competence, right? It's all about proving technical competence. Document also should say that, and people also must practice that. Then only you can able to get this NADCAP. Then your journey starts. And what would be the cost of NADCAP? No, NADCAP doesn't dictate any machine specification. They refer standard, they refer specification. The specification tells you how to qualify a machine, right? It's all in the specifications, customer specification or AMS specification or material specifications. So NADCAP price list is fixed. It is available. This is the price list. Depends on the which location, which commodity, how many days of audit, what is the scope you do. I could say approximately it comes around 8,000 to 9,000 US dollars. First time a company is going for an audit. Clear? Each commodity, you cannot have paying 9,000 fees and you cannot get more than one commodity. You can say 9,000 US dollars, which you directly pay to the NADCAP. Clear? What if operator inspector left the company? It's your company process. Again, before deputing any person to handling the NADCAP part, ensure they are competent, right? So your company competency procedure must address that. Clear? It's part of your 9100. Your 9100 is supposed to take care of that. So try to define the scope, what checklist, then come up with the action plan. Then your NADCAP journey starts. And these are the various resources you can explore. eAuditNet and PRI, where you can explore all this information. Yes, NADCAP is only for aviation, space, and defense company. But as I mentioned, PRI is running a lot of other accreditation program for different sectors, like transportation, power generation industry. We have TPG accreditation, medical device industry. We have MED accreditation, and CAP is for another sector. Again, they are now trying to connect this with NADCAP itself. But this NADCAP is only for aviation, space, and defense sector. Okay, so that's what I'd like to address in this training program. So let's have a Q&A session. Now the forum is open for Q&A. Any questions, please, we can have. If you have unmute and speak, or you can type, we will address both. Some questions I have addressed initially in the chat box. If I missed it, you can type that again. Otherwise, you can speak. I'll address that. No, sir, this material cannot be shared because some copyrighted informations are there, right? But I'll ensure this recordings will reach you somewhere, right? PCB assembly, IPC CAT trainer is mandatory or not? First of all, IPC certified person is mandated by your customer spec or not? So talk to customer, get a clarity. If customer mandates, then you should have, CAT, right? See, there is no concept of MSME. Everyone is getting money, right? Either you are big industry, large industry, small industry, doesn't matter, right? It's for the safety, reliability. It's not about how financially you are strong, what is the turnover you do. Pickling and passivation we are doing or material, okay, or after welding. Again, this is depends on the specs, sir. What is your customer spec or engineering spec says? You need to look at that. NADCAP doesn't mandate that. You can refer chemical processing checklist. There you can get some keys. Then you can check with your customers. So for a particular plasma night reading, okay, you do lab testing. Do we need to go for NADCAP? Again, It's all customer spec only, sir. See, the whole NADCAP program itself voluntary, right? Unless your customer contract says, no one need to go for NADCAP. Remember the numbers, 1,300 plus for AA certified. How many people are NADCAP certified? Only 140. Which means this 140 people do business with the subscribers. They mandate it. When we start this, only 20 people in NADCAP. Now we have 140 on different commodities. If you have 17025, if a customer accepts it, fine, there is no need for NADCAP. Are there any NADCAP checklist and personal qualification requirement for? Yes, of course, sir. Personal qualification checklist is there. There's /1 in all PCB assembly checklist, cable wire harness checklist, pair PCB post checklist. /1 is for personal qualification. Again, they refer IPC JSTD only. Yes, if you registered from your company official ID, the admin team will approve you. Yes, they may, because some company, they have admin credential, or you check with your company, other people who have admin rights, they may approve you.
Okay.
Sorry. No, not only aero engine parts, sir. It's the entire aircraft. Not only aero engine parts. NADCAP is mandated by different subscribers. There are a lot of subscribers, right? They are mandated. There are engine parts, there are landing gears, even there are interiors, there are avionic systems. A lot of people are mandating NADCAP.
Sir, for
Yes,
one
sir.
question, sir.
Yes.
We are doing some inside components, sir.
Okay.
We can test their performance only. We can't test their in their actual field. How can we can get this NADCAP?
See, NADCAP is not for the final product, na, so it's for the process, correct?
Yeah. That's
So
what I'm
after
asking.
performing,
What I'm saying means, because the entire assembly we are not giving. Only a bit of assemblies we are giving.
It's only for the processes. To perform an assembly, you do a manufacturing activity, right? For example, PCBA board, PCB assembly only we are getting NADCAP. The PCBA assembly goes into a box build, that goes into a subsystem. That is not for NADCAP. NADCAP is for the special processes, manufacturing processes.
But sir, how you validate the process?
That's what the checklist is.
You must be checking the product, no, sir, outcome of the process.
No, product, those are all comes under airworthiness certification, right? Product certification is completely different. Right? Product certification between how you and your customer agreed. You do ground test, flight test, that's between your designer spec.
Sir, actually, for each and every testing process, internal or customer give their own procedures. Sir.
Correct.
If you are
I think I lost your voice in between.
give us a procedure so that we can validate like that. In this condition, how the NADCAP will use how to use the NADCAP in checking this this thing?
See, there are two things here, sir. People are confusing with the certification, qualification, accreditation. Any system or subsystem component or LRU, designer is designing, as part of design, they supposed to do validation. One is design validation, product validation. They do all in PDR, CDR. Once designer is approved, it is transferred to the production process. There you get production approval, right? This NADCAP is not for development product. NADCAP is only for production product, serial production product. Clear? Which means the design is already fixed, tested, validated. Now I am doing serial production. During serial production, the process are accredited. Clear?
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Now I understood.
Yes. Okay. So let's see some other questions. Yes, forging is a special process under M, metallic metal manufacturing. Forging is there, investment casting is there, sand casting is there, even metal powder manufacturing is there. Yes. Customer approval PO, typically it is required. If you don't have any valid aerospace customer PO, you talk to NADCAP, they will give you a special approval. You can apply all spec to a non-aerospace part. You can very much do that, or dummy part. Not for every commodity, for few commodity, right? You can go with specimens, yes. Incoming traceability is 9100 requirements, sir. Forget about NADCAP. Aerospace basic requirement is your AS 9100 talks for incoming traceability, correct? Vibration ESS, you have Penta5 standard, na? That is what. So NADCAP doesn't have any checklist. For testing. Again, it's all customer contractual requirements, sir. Some customer, domestic customer accepts 17025. Some customer doesn't accept international global customer, right? No, general NADCAP simply prefers IPC only, IPC JSTD. From that you can defer, right? The job audit, whatever the scope you selected, now you have to cover the entire scope. That's what all about job audit. Whatever the scope you have selected for your NADCAP, you have to prove that that is considered in job audit. Okay. Task group will confirm, sir. They will confirm out which are the process of special purpose. They're only developing the checklist, right? Previously, there is no checklist for machining. Now they come up with this. Again, they are not mandated for every commodity, right? They know they don't want to overburden the supply chain also. So where it is applicable, there only they are mandated. Clear? Yes, yes, you can. If for all technical queries, you can always send mail to PRA, right? They will guide you. They will clarify you, because after all, they are exist to support the ecosystem, right?
Sir, is it possible to have the same scope what you are having the AS9100 recently, as well as the NADCAP scope?
Scope, see, NADCAP scope is very limited, sir. Whatever they give in that boundary, that only they will give. For example, in AS 9100, you can get a scope like that, heat treatment, providing heat treatment services. NADCAP cannot give like that. Within heat treatment, what you do, which allow you are heat treating, against which specification you are heat treating. It should be very specific.
Suppose for the cable harness segment,
Within cable wire harness, what are the activities you do? You need to clearly specify. For example, you are doing coaxial, biaxial. You do press fit. You do the stripping. What stripping you do? Thermal stripping, mechanical stripping. Everything should be specified. Your certificate itself says all these things.
Diligently, this one, how much time frame it will take for the NADCAP certification?
That is a very good question. So no one asked it. Now only you are asking. So it's take minimum, considering you are qualified, your operator, qualifying process, qualifying equipment, everything is in place. From the date, you can take 5 months. You never attempt NADCAP as part of complying tender condition. There is a tender condition. Can I get NADCAP? Forget the tender.